Our Week 5 NFL Power Rankings coming up next here on today's show. If you want weekly Power Rankings and then eventually playoff picture updates once we get to that time of the year, hit the sub button for me right now. There is no change at the bottom of this week's Power Rankings. The Chicago Bears, who I really thought were going to win a football game, did not. They stay at number 32. The Carolina Panthers, to the surprise of nobody, are now number 31. Although I will make note, the Bears were not a unanimous 32. There was even one voter who somehow had them at 28 on the list. They shall remain nameless. If you've been paying attention to who the outliers are each week, it was one of those two. Now, who will win a game first? B for the Bears or P for the Panthers? Remember, the Bears have the first crack at it. They play Thursday Night Football this week. Get those predictions in, B or P. Now, Denver actually moves up a spot to number 30. They barely came back in a thrilling game, frankly, to beat the Chicago Bears, but their win is over the 32nd ranked team, so that does kind of track, and they haven't looked very good in the process. The Raiders are number 29 because they beat Denver. Funny how that all plays out there. They drop another spot. How can you let Khalil Mack get that many sacks? That was not a very good showing. The Arizona Cardinals, number 28, they again move up a spot. They've been much more competitive this year than I think most people thought they were going to be. Still room for growth. I'm not sure how many games they're going to win, but they've been much more competitive than anticipated. The Giants, oh boy, that was ugly. I'm sorry, Giants fans. That was a horrible performance. The offensive line did nothing. Daniel Jones was a kind of an ugly turnover machine. They attempted 2 passes, I think, beyond 10 yards. The yards per attempt was 3, and they're still taking sacks. It's a mess in New York. Daniel Jones, I get the supporting cast again is causing issues, but we've had that conversation every year of his career. So at a certain point, maybe it's on the quarterback a little bit. So what do you think? Is Daniel Jones an actual franchise QB, or did the Giants make a $40 million per year mistake by choosing to pay him? We'll make this today's pinned comment. Maybe some Giants fans can defend DJ. Y for yes, N for no. If the ad happens to come here on YouTube, cool. Take advantage of it. Head down there and go type in Y for yes, N for no. The Patriots got handed the worst loss of Bill Belichick's career against the Dallas Cowboys. That was a bad Mac Jones game, by the way. Could ask the exact same question we did for Daniel Jones for Mac Jones. They slide down a few spots. The Vikings now at number 25 this week. They move up 1 spot. They've been more competitive. They really, if they just don't turn the ball over, they probably would have several wins this year. But 0-3 starts teams don't often recover from that one 5 times in non-strike shortened seasons. Not a great sign for Minnesota. All right, who is your favorite NFL team? Take advantage by going to vote in the comment section right now. Flood the comment section. Don't let your rival outvote you in the comments. The Jets, is it a sign of hope for New York? Hope's a dangerous thing. Can drive a man insane. Zach Wilson had one of his best games ever. He looked much improved against Kansas City. The supporting cast around him, kind of minus the offensive line, the defense is awesome. Can they find a way to get enough good play out of Zach Wilson that they can make a playoff push? Or do they have to go find somebody else not named Trevor Siemian? Who knows? Jets, again, slide a little bit down, but it was a more promising showing out of Wilson. The Colts actually stay where they were. The completion numbers don't look very good for Anthony Richardson, but there are some drops, some bonkers throws. He's making plenty of misses still mixed in there. I've been fairly impressed by him as a rookie. Bryce Young, not so much. We'll get to C.J. Stroud, though. Tennessee up 2 spots. I mean, they took it to the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, the Bengals are, well, we'll save our time for the Bengals once we get there. Tennessee, some very big discrepancies in the voting. We've had them in the top 20. Some had them in the bottom 6, which I thought was, again, kind of weird. The Steelers at number 21. That game against Houston, is the type of game Pittsburgh normally wins. To get to that above 500 mark, pretty consistent votes here in the late teens, early 20s for Pittsburgh. They slide down a few spots. Houston, meanwhile, jumps up several spots with big discrepancies, as low as 27, as high as 14. End result does put them there at number 20, barely ahead of the Steelers, which makes sense because they did win head-to-head. I think C.J. Stroud has been the best rookie quarterback. You know, we make the big deal about the Giants not having good O-line, injured receivers, whatever. Houston's down multiple starters up front, too. And Stroud is finding ways to make that work, and so is his coaching staff and the team around him. Today's show is made possible by Prize Picks. It is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. It's just you against the numbers. Instead of battling thousands of other players, including the pros and the sharks, you simply pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. I'm a big fan of the more than because that life's too short to take the less than. I got Lamar Jackson more than 210.5 passing yards. Kind of feels low. Steelers are good defense. I get it. Jalen Waddle against the Giants defense. It struggled this year. 59.5 receiving yards. That's low. Give me the more than. And Justin Jefferson more than more than a half touchdown. So getting 1 touchdown, basically. You can take my picks or take your own, whatever. They're giving you a $100 first deposit match when you go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for that first deposit match up to $100. That 3-player pick, by the way, the power play, 5x return. So 10 to win 50. That's pretty good, folks. Link will be in the comments and the description, but again, it's prizepicks.com/CLNS. And use code CLNS for that first deposit match. No team really has a bigger discrepancy in how they're viewed right now in our power rankings from the tops to the bottoms than the Bengals, basically. As high as 11 still, and as low as the early 20s, 23, 22, etc. I had him at 22. Their issues are not just Joe Burrow's calf injury. The defense does not look good. They plummeted down the rankings this week, and understandably so. The Commanders at 2-2, I wish they had gone for it on the 2-point try. More of a consensus to a certain extent here, all kind of in the 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 range here. But a bit of a gap as you get to some of these next teams where we're in this 2-win team section. How do you sort them all through? The Commanders down to the Rams that we'll get to are all separated on the average voting by less than 1.5. So no real discrepancies between the Commanders at 18, the Falcons at number 17, who did not have a great showing on the road, in London, I suppose. The Packers at 16, because what are they really? There's some confusion there. The Saints at 15, again, what are they? They got boat raced by the Bucs. Their offense has issues. The Rams lost the Bengals, then redeemed themselves against the Colts. They'll be around 500. So that gap between, really you can mix in the Bengals if you want to, no difference than an average of 2 points. So very tightly compacted there in that 18 to 14 range. Then there's a bit of a jump up here to the Browns at 13. Which I found curious because I had them down at 16. I was the low man second to low man on the Browns. There were still some top 10 picks. Maybe it was didn't have Deshaun Watson. We'll give them a break there. I don't think that game plan was very good. Their defense is fantastic. I don't know what to make of them. And again, for me, they fall in that previous tier. Rest of the voters felt differently. Now for another jump. That is for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. 3-1. I'm not sure everyone believes in them, but they are 3-1, and they're probably viewed as the favorites to win the NFC South at the moment. I had them at 12, by the way. The Chargers at 11, as again, we're getting a little bit more into a separate tier here. Browns, Chargers, Bucks, and Jags. I spoiled number 10, but we'll get to that. They're separated by, again, barely a point on average. So very, very compacted in this tier of we think they're contenders, but we're not sold yet. The Chargers, Inconsistency reigns. Defense up and down. Khalil Mack stepped up. Offense had a rough showing. Defense finally stepped up, though. The Jags, maybe the Texans are actually just decent this year. Maybe we should be giving them some more love. They're number 10. I would not sleep on that team at the moment. Pretty almost unanimous spot here at number 9. There were a couple people had him at 10. Some had him a little bit higher, but very clear 9th team in our rankings, the Seattle Seahawks, who have been really good so far this season when they're playing lesser opponents. Now, going back to that AFC South battle here. Who ends up winning the AFC South? Because all 4 teams are 2-2, which doesn't happen that often where every team has the same record. Who wins the South? JAC for the Jags, IND for the Colts, HOU for the Texans, or TEN for the Titans. Now, 8 and 7 are tightly compacted as well. The Detroit Lions narrowly behind the Baltimore Ravens. I think both of these teams legitimately harbor real playoff aspirations. The Lions, the favorites in the probably not going to be that tough NFC North. The Ravens should be tougher AFC North. They're number 7. The Cowboys at number 6. They actually drop a spot this week because one team, correctly so I might add, jumped up several spots. They were right behind Dallas. Dallas has, again, some conflicting rankings, but they're as low as 8. Again, our 2 typical outliers had them at 8 and 3. I had them at 6 myself. You can make an easy argument for 5. There were plenty of 5 votes there. But the Dolphins have that number 5 spot here ahead of the Dallas Cowboys. Disappointing loss doesn't mean necessarily a bad team at this stage. They are separated by that much. It's about as close as it could be. If one person had flipped their votes, the Cowboys and Dolphins would have flipped. That's how narrow it is in the rankings. So Cowboys fans, don't be too mad. The Chiefs at number 4. Again, there's nothing quite unanimous this week. We almost have a unanimous number 1. The Chiefs had 2 3s. There was 1 first place vote for Kansas City. Everything else was 3s and 4s. The Bills jump up to number 3 as they took down the team that I think had been the most impressive team entering that game, the Miami Dolphins. The Jets game will probably be an outlier. Josh Allen played fantastic again in that game. The Eagles, almost a unanimous number 2, by the way. There was 1 voter at 5. So, again, our typical outliers chiming in there. 1 voter at 5, it wouldn't have got them to, they would have been 2 pretty much no matter what there. They are one of 2 undefeated teams and a near unanimous number 1. San Francisco, there's 1 voter who did not have them at number 1 here among the Chat Sports staff AP poll-style power rankings. Everyone else had the Niners. I think they've been the most impressive team in football this year, especially with the Dolphins now losing. Steady, consistent wins. Going to be a great Sunday night game between them and the Cowboys. So grade our Week 5 NFL Power Rankings. A, B, C, D, or F. Go do it in the comment section.